There you go, James. So James is going to talk about the young Karl Marx. He was worried that there wouldn't be enough time on the camera, so I gave him a full half an hour here to fill your ear with.
Much. So,
actually, that's really good. I'm going to do that. Oh, now I can't have my salad and stuff.
Were you talking about criticism or something like that?
What?
Oh, maybe you were. Anyway. I want to talk a little bit about CBC first.
Oh.
Seems as though whenever I tune in,
I'm going to put this
even though it's not Black History Month, I'll just tune in. They're talking about African Americans, or with an African American, or someone or something indigenous. The African American population of Canada is something like 4%. You're not representing the full scope of your tax base. CBC, radio, presume something similar applies to TV. And it's CBC One that I listen to, the news channel, something like news channel. Just representing your favorite folks out there is no, I know what you think it is, but it's not diversity. It's the opposite. Yeah? When you're hammering down on particular issues having to do with what you so colorfully call people of color, you're racist. You're being racist. Today I tune in. What are they hammering yammering? Oh yeah. Music. Recently they've got a new person handling kind of like the music culture. Tariq Robinson. I believe Tariq Robinson is a person of color. He's got a Muslim first name. Not to say he's Muslim or black Muslim. But now he's on holidays or something like that. Tariq Robinson is. Who'd they get to replace him? Oh. Understand, I'm not going by, it's a country and western person. I guess from Calgary, something like that. Oh, this will be interesting. Oh, it's a woman. Okay, that's interesting. She's the one who volunteers. She's black. Non-polar. And she's appropriated the concept of shamanism. So she's a shaman. How is that diverse? You replace a black person with another black person or African American person. I don't. Would you call her American? So some of the music she's doing is she's highlighting some music. One of them is a fellow person from Dominica, or Dominica, I think is how she said it. What? What percentage of people in Calgary are from Dominica or Dominican Republic or whatever? Huh? That's not diversity. It's racism. When you're selecting particular groups and giving them special coverage, and the groups are based on race, you are being racist. Big time. Then, when I'm getting in the car, I tune in the radio again. Oh, it's indigenous. It's a person from CBC, NDP, maybe former MLA, and complaining about how the environment in the Legislative Assembly in BC, other places as well. Basically, the political culture today is so vile. I think that's one of the terms she used, vile. I'm going, well, that's interesting. Member of the NDP. Turns out she's Indigenous. I believe she is. And she was wanting successor, encouraging, suggesting their successor should be Indigenous. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, the interviewer is not saying, well, what about the talk about resident schools? This use of the term, abuse of the term genocide. As I know, I've got a dictionary of sociological terms, and there it's got for genocide. I look it up. Of course, I'm going through the whole thing, but I specifically wanted to check this out. Genocide, killing off a whole people. Second, derived, meaning depriving people of their culture. When you use a loaded term like genocide for the second concept, you are indulging in hate language. It's hate language. You can do it. Understand, I'm not going to witch hunt you and try to get you fired if you're a university prof, a sociology prof, something like that. I don't believe in censorship. But you are indulging in hate language when you call something like that genocide. Yeah, what happened with the resident schools is someone who I quite respect said, when I was suggesting it was wrong to call it genocide, but it's a crime and it's a sin. Well, it wasn't a crime. It should have been, I suppose. But there are many different types of crimes. Maybe it was a crime like kidnapping. But you don't go around calling kidnapping murder. Maybe it was industrial strength kidnapping. But again, industrial strength kidnapping, you don't call industrial strength murder, i.e. genocide. You don't. Same sort of thing with sins. There are all sorts of sins. If you don't honor your mother and father, in the 10 Commandments, that's a sin. But you don't go around calling that murder. There's a separate commandment of the 10 Commandments for murder. Thou shalt not kill. You take the name of your Lord in vain. That's a sin. But that you don't call that murder. So the CBC interviewer just lets it go by, doing the Fox Network thing. Here's a little softball pitch, way up in the air. See if you can hit a home run with that. Here's another one. Whee! Whee! Oh, you didn't quite hit that one. Let me give you a softer one. You're doing the Fox Network thing. So I keep hearing this from the CBC. Oh, the politics is so polarized. Do something about it. And what they're doing is they're saying to the right-wingers, you'd better come over to our side. What? That's like the North Pole saying to the South Pole, come on over here. Let's meet at the equator. But what they're insisting, and understand it's not requesting, it's insisting. They're having a conversation. Conversation for you nifty lefties is condemnation, and there's two sides to it. Cancellation. In other words, they condemn, and then when there's an attempt at a conversation or a discussion, cancellation, curtains come down. So in the Karl Marx thing, they got a guy, and they kind of make fun of him, Weitling. And he was easy to make fun of then, and he still is. So he's talking about having a revolution with, I think it was 1,000 workers and 40,000 criminals. Well, that's what revolutionaries tend to do when they want to have a lousy revolution. Like the revolutionaries in France, what they did was they went and opened up the Bastille. And I presume they, I don't know if there are too many prisoners there, but I suspect that they were trying to release everyone. It's the Michel Foucault thing. Anyone in prison, like they're oppressed. Let's think about what happened in Calgary. day or two ago. Are you listening, Foucault, wherever you are in the afterworld? I don't think you're in purgatory. If you're in heaven, I don't want to be there. I think you're frying in hell. No, I don't think you are. I think you're one of the briquettes used to fry other people. You're in like the 10th circle of hell. And Dante, as I understand, or as I recall, only has 9. So you're right at the bottom. You're one of the briquettes. You don't believe in jail, eh? Michel Foucault. There's some woman, hopefully, she's gone to the other place. 58 years old, found in a park. What was it, Deerfoot Park? Calgary? And she wasn't hanging out there of her own free will. Dead. The person responsible, or looks like responsible, being charged, almost certainly responsible, I think tried to burn the body because he's being charged with, I don't know what the term is, but messing around with a body. I think he's trying to burn it. Oh, well, he's interesting. Now, why am I confident that this guy is the murderer? You know, he just got out of jail, maybe last year. I gather he did 13 years in jail, including time served. Convicted, when was it, 2016 or something like that, 2015. For a murder, where the body was discovered in the Calgary Park. Is a different park. So, man, oh man, this guy, you know, like, he was really learning in prison, you know, different park. 2009, woman murdered, presumably in the park. Don't know all the details. I really don't want to get into all the details. I don't want to have to. What was he doing out? He was sentenced to 13 years for a murder. What was he doing out? Oh, it's because of guys like Michel Foucault. Prisons are horrible. You know, get people out there on the streets. They're in there because they're oppressed. The reason why people commit crimes is because they're oppressed. Well, guess what? What's the motivation for Donald Trump? What's the motivation for corrupt capitalists? What's their motivation? Have they been oppressed? Wake up and smell the coffee. Your psychology, you nifty lefties, is all out of whack. Way out in left field. Maybe. Okay, so we're dealing with Karl Marx. So I see this. The young Karl Marx. They've been doing this scene ever since I was a kid. 70s. University. Holy smokes, we're going to look at the economic manuscripts of 1844. 4 years before the Communist Manifesto. 4 years before Europe was aflame with revolution. So they you know, like, they were trying to get away from this Karl Marx, who looks like I guess to some people like a benevolent bear, but unfortunately he had claws and teeth and all that sort of stuff. He's the kind of guy who said, I don't think this is a suburban myth. He said, a capitalist will sell the rope to hang him with. Well, that's a stupid formulation, because you see, you got to go get, this is back, you know, like in 1848 or whenever. Marx, I think, died in 1883. So it's 1883 at the latest. You gotta go through the cannons that he's manufactured to get to that rope to hang him with. You stupid fool. Are you listening, Marx, wherever you're at? I don't think you're in purgatory either. And if you're upstairs, I don't want to be there when I die, I'm telling you. But at any rate, I'm going along thinking, oh, okay, they're trying to sexify dude. So on the back, there he is, making love to his wife, and they kind of semi-stripped down for action. Thank heavens it wasn't totally stripped down, because this guy looked a little overweight. somewhat flabby to boot. So yeah, they're trying to make him look sexy, sexify dude. And wow. So let's see what their own blurb. Let's see what was I right that they're trying to make him look sexy? This sort of stuff. Maybe they're just trying to, you know, like, render the historical record truthful and all that sort of stuff. At the age of 26, in other words, you got to look. What does the Bible say? says, and I use this to judge Christians by, but also judge commies and other people by it as well. By their fruits ye shall know them. By their fruits ye shall know them. Do we have a strange fruit here? When we look at Southern culture, you got strange fruit. That's Billie Holiday. You got lynchings, right? Strange fruit. I'm going to tell you, lynchings were pretty rare. Not rare enough, but pretty rare in the United States after the Civil War. What were lynchings like? They weren't amateurs doing it. It was the government, state terrorism. Lynchings in the south of the United States, that was terrorism. That's systemic racism. But what you had in the Soviet Union and in China is systematic racism and terrorism. State terrorism. Tens of millions of people killed. How much time have we got? 5 minutes?
More than 10.
Okay.
Okay. Keep going.
So at the age of 26, Karl Marx embarks with his wife, Jenny, or Jenny. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying. German pronunciation would be something like Jenny. Jenny von Westphalen. Jenny of Westphal. Apparently a fallen aristocrat. A fallen, something like an angel. But who was the archetypal fallen angel? Was it Lucifer or something like that? The light bearer. Embarks with his wife Jenny on the road to exile. Ooh. In Paris in 1844, they meet young Friedrich Engels. Or as you mispronounce it, Engels. It's probably something more like Engel. Son of a factory owner, believe me, they pronounced it correctly in the show. Son of a factory owner and a son of a bee, too. But who studied, his dad was a bee. But, we'll say bastard. But son of a factory owner who studied the sordid beginnings of the English proletariat. Sordid beginnings of the English proletariat. Engels, somewhat of a dandy. Yeah, here he is dressed to the nines, dressed to T. And when I think of people who care about the working poor, working class people, about poor people in general, I don't think of them dressing to the T, dressing to the nines. I don't think of them being dandies. I don't like Mother Teresa that much, but I don't think of her dressed in some sort of fancy nun's costume, with spangles and all this kind of stuff. Gold lame shift or something like that. I don't think of Albert Schweitzer dressed to the nines. I don't think of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, whatever his faults, dressed to the nines. I think of him in some sort of loincloth and a little thing draped over his shoulder and stuff like that. I don't think of him as a dandy. So they try to show Engels as being, like giving a guinea to a kid who's selling some, I don't know, cigar holders or something like that, I'm not sure. And then giving him another guinea. Oh, really generous. But he's dressed to the T's. They're dressed to a T and dressed to the nines. Okay, study the sordid beginnings of the English proletariat. Engels, somewhat of a dandy, brings Karl Marx the missing piece to the puzzle that composes his vision of the world. He's imagining and reimagining even before, 150 years before people started doing that here. Imagine, reimagine. Yeah. Together, between censorship and police raids. Yeah. What we were talking about the fruits. By their fruits ye shall know them. Censorship. What was censorship like under Stalin? Under Mao? And what were police raids like? They were knocks in the night. I mean, these idiots survived these police raids. There were tens of millions of people that didn't survive the police raids of Mao and Stalin. And Khrushchev. Tens of millions. Got that? You folks that made this show? You folks that ate it up? With your you-know-what eating grins? Together, between censorship and police raids, riots, and political upheavals, they will preside over the birth of the labor movement. No, not the birth of... They have Weitling here. He's already established figure. Proudhon, they've got him here. Proudhon was apparently a thoroughgoing anti-Semite, incidentally. Like anti-Semitism is pretty well a natural... I'm not sure why. A natural... I think it's the association of Jews with capitalists. Natural kind of a response, or reflex action for socialists. For the vast majority of time, socialism has been around. Understand, I categorize myself as a social democrat, but I've got to have my eyes wide open to this sort of thing. So Proudhon, apparently, was a pretty bad anti-Semite. Now, the birth of the labor movement. No. They were there to try and make it stillborn. Right? They made a hostile takeover of a labor movement called the League of the Just. Hostile takeover. Changed it into the Communist Party. They changed the name. They might as well have called it the League of the Unjust. When you look at their fruits, they're very rotten fruit, they're very strange fruit. Of the labor movement, which until then had been mostly makeshift and unorganized. Yeah, these guys are good at organization, organizing oppression. This will grow into the most complete, theoretical, and political transformation of the world since the Renaissance. Wow. The communist movement, is nothing comparable to the Renaissance. When you look at what came out of the Renaissance, the beginning of the Renaissance is the development of the printing press. Maybe even a little bit before that, Jan van Eyck. Some of the early Renaissance sculptors and stuff like that. But especially the printing press. How does this compare with the printing press? What were these guys doing with printing? They and their followers. Censorship. Sending people like Alexander Solzhenitsyn would be using the printing press, or samizdat, to publish their own stuff. That's self-publication for you folks that don't care to learn Russian. What happened to Alexander Solzhenitsyn? Yeah, he was sent to the Gulag. What was it, for 11 years or something like that? Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, he wasn't the only one. Newsflash. The most complete theoretical and political transformation in the world since the Renaissance. What happened? Between the Renaissance and the coming to the world of these fallen angels, these Lucifers, Marx and Engels. Well, about 100 years, well, actually quite a bit less, after the development of the printing press, 1517 was it? The 95 Theses, Martin Luther, Protestantism, John Calvin, Ulrich Zwingli, even Henry VIII was a greater person than these, and he was a nasty, bloodthirsty guy. Because by their fruits you shall know them, especially Jean Calvin. He had a history of violence, apparently. People were persecuted under his influence and stuff like that. But you look at Calvinism, here it is. Get the distinction between necessary and sufficient condition. With almost no exception, it's a necessary condition for a society to have a long-term devotion to democracy. Almost absolutely necessary. Not a sufficient condition. We've got, for example, as a counterexample, the Calvinists in South Africa. Not sufficient condition, but it's nigh well necessary. Only places in the world where there's been long-term devotion to democracy: Holland, England, the United States, despite all its faults, Canada, despite all its faults, Australia, despite all its faults, New Zealand. That's about it. That's about it. You notice I didn't mention Germany. No, I didn't mention France. France going along, like having their revolutions and, falling back like a dog, going back like a dog to the proverbial dog to its vomit, back to Napoleon III, or to Charles de Gaulle, however you want to mispronounce his name. And then after the Reformation, Protestant Reformation, what do you got? Oh, you got the scientific revolution, 1600s. Oh, a lot of you folks, you nifty lefties, you don't like science. You particularly, what you want to do is you follow the French and you say, that's rational. That's from Descartes. Well, guess what? Descartes would have believed, although he did talk about kind of like experimental science, he was a deductive scientist. He was a mathematician, not even really a scientist. So the kind of tradition that comes out of Descartes is deductive science, which is anti-science. It has to be based on empiricism, on experiment and experience. And the amazing thing is, you guys are walking around, you nifty lefties, with your cell phones and your texting and all this sort of stuff. You're on your laptop and you've got your tablet, and you've got at the university, you're using the university computers, or you've got your computer at home tip-tapping and all this sort of stuff. All that stuff. Impossible without science. I'm saying I've had one cell phone in my life with Pauline, and that was just, I was laid out on my back. I couldn't get up and answer a phone. I had 5 fractured vertebrae. Guess what? I still have. Do we have a computer? No, we don't have a computer. Much less a smartphone, an iPod, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I do believe in science. Technology, what science gives you is you can make mistakes in the sense of the technology. What science does is it gives you choices. You got more choices than someone wandering the range out here trying to survive a winter or stuff like that. All you nifty lefties, I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you get back to nature. Get back to the garden here in southern Alberta with the winter we've had. I'd love to see you guys. I don't like you guys that much, and you wouldn't survive. Because you guys are killers. You guys are killers. You're absolute killers. You're witch hunters right now. And if you were in power, you'd be killing like Stalin. You'd be sending people to the gulags. You'd be putting bullets through the back of people's necks and stuff like that. Summary justice. Injustice. In case you haven't figured it out.
Well, wrap it up. Less than a minute.
Okay, after that, the Industrial Revolution. Oh, that's so awful. You guys are sitting enjoying the fruits of the Industrial Revolution. This is garbage. It ended up with showing the fruits. They're showing Mandela. Mandela was a communist, a Nazi communist. Patrice Lumumba, Nazi communist. And they didn't show Stalin. They didn't show Mao. They didn't show the leaders of Korea, the misleaders of Korea. It didn't show Ho Chi Minh. Maybe it did. Horrible person. State terrorist. It didn't show, maybe it showed Ortega. Ortega's still in power.